There is a material growing in our forests right now that is harder than concrete, stronger than oak, and naturally immune to rot. In 1850, farmers buried fence posts made of this timber, and today, those same posts are still standing, solid and sound. While modern pressure-treated lumber rots away in less than 15 years, this wood remains perfect for a century, without a single drop of chemicals, without treatment, and without maintenance. It doesn't just resist decay, it actually fertilizes the soil as it grows. For 300 years, it built the foundation of an empire. Then, suddenly, we erased it. Not because it failed, but because it succeeded too well. A material that lasts forever cannot be sold every decade. A tree that heals dead soil threatens the fertilizer industry. Wood that needs no poison cannot generate chemical profits. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you the secret of the wood that refuses to die, and why the multi-billion-dollar timber industry doesn't want it in your local hardware store. We are going to look at the data that proves this organic material outperforms chemically treated lumber in the most demanding environments on Earth. If you understand the story of this tree, you will realize that what we call progress in modern construction is often just a mask for industrial convenience. We will uncover how a natural miracle was systematically sidelined by a toxic chemical model, one that put our families at risk. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why this 100-year-old secret was buried and how you can use it to reclaim sovereignty in your own garden. If you stay until the end, you'll see why this tree is the ultimate answer to a failing industrial system. The story of this mystery opens in Jamestown, Virginia, in the year 1607. English colonists were scrambling to build shelter before the brutal winter hit. They sank massive poles into the earth to frame their walls. Generations later, the naturalist Mark Catesby explored Virginia. His travels documented between 1712 and 1719, and discovered something remarkable in those ruins. Those original poles, buried deep in the damp soil for decades, were perfectly sound. No rot, no decay, no damage from years of rain, soil, and insects. According to historical accounts of his observations, the posts appeared as though they had been placed in the ground only recently. This was black locust. Long before the colonists arrived, the Cherokee and Iroquois were already using it to carve bows of unmatched strength and tool handles that lasted for generations. They called it the wood that refuses to die. By 1812, black locust helped shape the outcome of a war at sea. American shipbuilders faced the British Navy, the most powerful fleet on Earth. British warships used oak pins to hold their planks together. American ships used tree nails. Wooden pegs cut from black locust that swelled when wet, creating bonds tighter than iron. These pegs gave American hulls significantly more structural resilience than standard oak construction. By 1820, Philadelphia was exporting black locust timber to Britain, and British shipbuilders were integrating the wood into their own fleet to match American durability. Why is this wood so different? It comes down to physics and chemistry. Black locust has a Janka hardness of 1,700 pounds, force-crushing white oak at 1,360, and leaving pine far behind. Its compressive strength, parallel to the grain of 10,200 pounds per square inch, exceeds that of standard residential concrete, which typically measures between 3,000 and 5,000 pounds per square inch. It is not just comparable to concrete in this specific measure, it surpasses it. But the real secret lies in its natural protective chemistry. Scientists have identified rhodonettin, a polyhydroxylated flavonoid found within the wood fibers, as a key compound responsible for black locust's extraordinary resistance to fungi and insects. Peer-reviewed research published in 2025 confirms that rhodonettin demonstrates broad antifungal and antibacterial activity, making it one of the most biologically potent natural wood preservatives known to science. The U.S. Forest Service has documented that black locust fence posts buried in raw soil can remain intact for over a century. At Harvard Forest in Massachusetts, posts installed 100 years ago are still standing today. At the Biltmore Estate in North Carolina, one of America's most iconic historic properties, craftsmen have trusted black locust for their outdoor structures for over a century and continue to use it to this day for repairs and replacements. That ongoing choice is itself a testament to its proven documented performance. Most timber crops strip the land of nutrients, but black locust does the opposite. It is one of the few nitrogen-fixing hardwoods on Earth. Rhizobium bacteria colonize its roots, pulling nitrogen directly from the atmosphere and converting it into ammonia that enriches the surrounding soil. Scientific studies document nitrogen fixation rates ranging from 35 to 150 kilograms per hectare per year, with the upper range achieved under optimal growing conditions. To put that in perspective, most commercial fertilizers deliver nitrogen to crops from outside the system. Black locust generates it from within, for free, every single year. Research consistently shows that soils under black locust stands contain significantly more nitrogen than surrounding forest areas in some documented cases, between 1.3 and 3.2 times higher. Its root system is deep and aggressive, reaching moisture and nutrients that shallow annual crops cannot access, giving it extraordinary resilience in drought conditions and degraded soils. When large stands of these trees were cleared in the late 1800s to make way for farmland, the soil degradation that followed was severe. The tree that ranchers called a weed had been quietly holding the ecosystem together. Today, European agroforestry researchers increasingly study it as a keystone species for ecological restoration of exhausted land. This isn't just a building material, it's a biological engine that repairs dead landscapes. So if it's stronger, lasts longer, and heals the earth, why can't you buy it at Home Depot? The answer is industrial compatibility. Black locust refuses to fit into a factory. The trees grow crooked as they reach for light, creating tension wood that warps when sawn on standard equipment. The locust borer, a native North American beetle, drills tunnels through trunks in certain regions, making consistent milling difficult. Sawyers and distributors accustomed to straight, soft pine find black locust slow, expensive, and unpredictable to process at scale. Major lumber distributors decline to stock it, creating a self-reinforcing cycle. No supply, no demand, no knowledge. But in Hungary, the story is entirely different. Black locust covers over 450,000 hectares, roughly 23% of all forested land in the country. Hungarian forestry researchers have refined cultivation techniques over decades to work with the tree's natural growth patterns. The wood is harvested for fence posts, firewood, and the production of premium acacia honey, one of Hungary's most valuable agricultural exports. European architects specify it for urban decking, bridges, and green infrastructure. In 2013, the Brooklyn Botanic Garden used black locust decking and won a major design award. Yet in the very country where the tree is native, it remains a niche product sold by small mills. We traded permanence for straightness and ease of shipping, while other nations embraced the strength we threw away. The real reason black locust disappeared from mainstream construction comes down to economics. A model built on recurring sales has no room for permanence. In 1933, Indian chemist Santi Kamasam invented CCA, a wood preservative combining chromium, copper, and arsenic. By the 1940s, CCA-treated lumber dominated the market. The industry discovered that cheap pine treated with this chemical cocktail would last 15 to 20 years before needing replacement. That built-in expiration date became a revenue engine. A material that lasts 100 years naturally is a structural threat to that model. A customer who buys a fence post in 1950 and doesn't need a new one until 2050 is a lost customer for 3 generations. The math is simple. Planned obsolescence beats permanence. L and black locust lost not because it failed, but because it lasted too long. The human cost came decades later. By the 1990s, studies revealed that CCA-treated wood leached arsenic into surrounding soil and groundwater. The EPA conducted risk assessments showing that children regularly playing on CCA-treated decks in warm climates were exposed to arsenic levels, exceeding established safety thresholds by a significant margin. On December 31, 2003, CCA was voluntarily phased out for residential use in the United States, not through a legislative ban but through an industry agreement reached under EPA pressure. The distinction matters. It took regulatory intervention to end the practice. But did the industry return to black locust? No. They shifted to new chemical systems like alkaline copper quaternary ACQ. The preservative changed. The business model did not. It still degrades faster than black locust. It still leaches copper into garden soil. It still requires replacement within 20 years. The tree was sidelined, not because science condemned it, but because it made the wrong kind of business. Sense. Here is what the industry never solved. Black locust cannot be made obsolete. Cut it down and new shoots emerge from the root system within the same growing season, a trait so persistent that European forestry agencies classify it as invasive in several countries. Burn it, and it regrows. The same biological stubbornness that frustrated 19th century farmers clearing land is precisely what makes it invaluable to 21st century land restorers rebuilding degraded soil. That resilience is the point. As our industrial systems face the pressure of climate change and soil degradation, black locust offers something rare: a tree that grows in soils too poor for wheat, survives cold that kills pine, needs no synthetic fertilizer, no irrigation, no chemical treatment, and produces timber that will outlast the generation that plants it. You don't need a lumberyard's permission to plant a tree that fixes its own nitrogen and builds its own preservatives at the molecular level. The knowledge isn't lost. It never was. Strength was always here, growing in the dirt, for free.